Since the dawn of time, there have been numerous questions that have burdened the minds of philosophers, scholars, skeptics, and more. Why are we here? Where did we come from? What happens when we die? And of course, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Join us on this episode of Scripter Screen as we sit down and answer definitively one of the truly great enigmas of our time. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Actually, what is the line from The Truman Show? It's...
Good morning. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That came from our resident co-host, Zach Strackman. I am your other co-host, Christopher Kitchen. Welcome to Scripter Screen for its first ever and beginning annual Zach's birthday Christmas special episode. Woo! Thank you. Woo! We've it's been a long ride. We've mentioned the birthday this episode, every episode up until this point.
We made it.
We made it. It's here. Zach's birthday's here. Zach, how does it feel?
Oh, it's a bit itchy, but it's the thought that counts.
Is it a bit itchy? Did you not remove the stick?
Like a nice sweater you get for the holidays.
Actually, I don't know about you. Well, you're into dog fashion, so to speak. I got my dog, my lovely little boy Iggy. I don't know if we've mentioned our dogs on the podcast before.
We're a couple of dog people.
We are. I adopted. I rehome adopted. Yeah, I feel like there's a line between those two words, but I brought into my home my lovely son, Ignatius Pigward, Iggy Piggy, we call him. This lovely little boy, he's a little French bulldog. He's super cute, super loving, great playmate to your dog, Rosie, Zach.
Yes, the golden girl herself, golden retriever, Rosie.
Yeah, we actually got Iggy his first holiday sweater this year. We got him a couple of options, and boy, does he love them, and is he cozy.
That's good. You know, he's got really short fur, so like
he's
a little skin, burrito boy, so he needs some extra warmth in these colder seasons. We live in Florida. It's down to like the 50s today, but that's winter.
I would say so myself. Actually, the other night, so a week ago, I was in Orlando working, and I think I got as low as like 40, maybe 35 at night, and I was pretty excited. We busted out the fire pit. In Florida, we can have open fires because it's not a dry state. And we can, it was just super nice, super cozied up. I don't know about you.
I love the cold. I love the cold. I will tell anyone ever that I would much prefer to be cold and get warm than be hot and get cool. Yeah,
I feel like I don't know. I feel like the cold, I thrive in it. I'm like a flower. I'm like a winter flower. I show up once a year and I open my heart and soul to the below 70-degree weather. And
nice.
Yeah.
I'm like a Venus flytrap.
Yeah, I get too close and you open up.
Oh no, it's because I eat flies.
Oh.
But hey, you know what? You know what this is? This is the last episode of Scripter Screen.
Ever?
Period. Forever.
Oh,
until
no.
For the
We've been
year
canceled, everybody. Sorry.
For the year 2020, this is our final episode of the year. We're gonna take a few weeks off to be with friends and family for the holidays and just give ourselves time to refuel the tank so we can come back roaring into 2021 with some exciting new content.
That is definitely true. Would you call it our second season, or just we're taking a mid-season break?
Well, I would say it's seasons, kind of like how the sports peoples do seasons. So like that was our 2020 season. This will be our 2021 season coming up.
I like the idea of a nice break during winter, maybe a summer break as well. Kind of give you like the whole primary school vibe going on. I think it's nice. It also gives everybody a break. If you haven't listened to any of the episodes of Script to Screen in the past, now you have the opportunity to just kind of take a look at our stock and see what's going on. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to www.scriptorscreen.com, check out our lovely catalog, or if that doesn't tickle your fancy, you could always go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and more. And don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube for all your Script or Screen needs. We got episodes on Steven Spielberg, on Christopher Nolan. We got an episode on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We got an episode on Fargo.
Avatar.
We have 2 episodes on Avatar, Zach. Come on. That's like...
The Mandalorian. That sound good to you?
That sounds pretty great. So don't forget, everybody. You should like us, you should follow us, and you should share us with your friends in case...
Comment on our social medias, on our videos, because we are on YouTube. And just comment, suggest what you want to hear us talk about.
That is I think that about settles it, Zach. That's...
All right.
That's our
We'll see you all in 2021. It's been a fun ride.
And, that's the rest of us. Thanks, guys, and have a great episode. No, we're just kidding. We're just joshing. We're just kidding around.
A little end of the year jokes.
So, speaking of jokes, Zach, our film today, Die Hard, has quite a few of them. But
it falls under the category I like to do of movies that aren't comedies but have funny scripts.
I would say so. I like your little script, by the way. For those of you who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Zach does a lot. All right, so when him and I started this podcast, we separated our roles in a way. Like, Zach and I both kind of decide which content we want to do, but I like to refer to Zach as like the content producer. He does a lot of the writing. I don't want to say the majority of the note taking, but like I think I set like a basis for how we should organize the episodes, and he's done a great job of filling in some of the information. Then I put my notes, he puts his notes. I myself handle a lot of the technical aspects, right?
Yes,
the uploading, the data, all that fun stuff going on there.
Yep.
And Billy's our editor.
They've kidnapped me. Send help.
And us three, we live in harmony in our own homes, and work remotely. But your writing for the cold open this time around, it reminded me of a joke. I don't know if you're familiar with the Jack and Daxter franchise from,
of course.
On the PlayStation. So the very first one, Daxter has like an opening line. It's like, "Who were these people? Why did they leave all this crap?" I don't know if you remember. That's a great line, and you know what? It comes into play here, Zach. Who were these incredible filmmakers, and why did they leave us such a great movie? Die Hard, the definitive Christmas movie of every generation ever.
That is what we're here to really dig into, because there are some people, some of those who I would go as far to call them heretics, who don't believe this is a Christmas movie.
Remember
they say you're just being ironic.
So do you remember when you and I used to work together way back when we first met? We had to convince one of our bosses that this was a Christmas movie, and that I think Point Break was like a surfing movie, and all these things. Like, that was such a pain, man. They just should have just took our word for it.
They should have.
There were all these movie nights and things going on, none of which I ever got to participate in, by the way. But it just, I don't understand. They say, "Oh, it's a Christmas miracle" at least 4 times in this movie, or "It's Christmas" or something like that.
It takes place on Christmas Eve. It has characters singing "Ode to Joy." The final song of the movie is "Let It Snow."
Bingo.
It's a Christmas movie. It may not be a traditional Christmas movie, but it is definitely a Christmas movie.
There's plenty of ho-ho-hos in here.
Yes. So let's start this off. How about you set the mood with a nice synopsis.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea.
Actually, I think just for the sake of continuity, for anyone who's keeping track, answer me the question: had you seen this movie before?
I want to plead the fifth. Here's the thing: I have an interesting relationship with Die Hard, right?
Okay.
It's that I've seen Die Hard movies.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, in which order have I seen them? Because
that is the question.
It's not in the order of which they were released. Can I tell you something funny? So I think for years, the only Die Hard movie I had ever seen, watched, was Live Free, Die Hard.
With, the one with Justin Long.
With Justin Long and Kevin Smith. And the bad guy, Timothy Olyphant, who is Cobb Vanth in The Mandalorian Season 2. And actually, Timothy Olyphant's had a really busy year in 2020 television. He popped up in
Fargo. He popped up in... What else was he in?
The Mandalorian, and I think I saw him in a movie earlier this year or something like that. I forget.
I know he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, the guy's
he's been
terrific
super busy.
Actor.
Yeah,
terrific
so
actor.
I'm glad he's getting a lot of work. But yeah, for years I had seen Live Free, Die Hard, and then I guess there was one that came after it that I had seen. I don't remember that one as well. Live Free, Die Hard, I think I watched a lot. And then I remember in there's a scene in The Office where Michael is explaining to like a group of his coworkers that are not in this is his second job about how John McClane went from being this cop that was at the wrong place in the wrong time, or the right place, wrong time, and then had to start doing these things to go, he went from that to like, oh, now he's driving motorcycles into helicopters. Like, what is that? And I kind of agree. Like, that was pretty crazy. But now that I've seen, and let me tell you something. Before my viewing of the first film, I saw maybe the first half an hour of the second film. I mean, I don't know if I like Die Harder, Zach. I don't even know if I liked it at all.
No, Die Harder, Die Hard 2 is not great. Honestly, while I have seen all the Die Hards. I think most of them are trash, but like I remember when Live Free or Die Hard came out, I was with a school group or something, and we had the option of seeing Live Free or Die Hard or the first Transformers movie.
Wait, you were with a school group and they let you see Live Free, Die Hard?
It's a PG-13 movie. It's a PG-13 movie, and...
What's field trip was this that you guys got to go to the movies?
I don't remember. It might have been a summer camp thing, but, I was like 16 at the time. But I just remember thinking that a PG-13 Die Hard movie sounds about like the worst time ever. And my opinion on that movie is like, we won't talk about it right now, but I ended up seeing the first Transformers movie instead.
I mean, I would say you made the better choice. I don't know. Yeah. The first Transformers was not terrible, but it also wasn't anything more than product placement and Megan Fox being positioned in weird scenes.
they are just very giant commercials.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't wait till we get to talk about Michael Bay on this podcast.
Good, because I have a lot of great Michael Bay stories. So first time viewing Die Hard, it was pretty excellent, actually. You and I actually had the same viewing experience, at least for this podcast. We got to sit on the couch and watch it with our old men, our dads.
Sometimes you sit down, and if you have a dad or a stepdad or a father figure in your life,
a mentor perhaps.
Yeah, anyone who can just fill that role, and you sit down and you watch a nice movie together. That's always a great time, a time well spent.
You want to know something really interesting? And I give a lot of credit to this person specifically. My stepfather, actually, is I want to say the reason why I became so into movies, into films in general.
Nice.
I don't know if you know this. Whenever people would come over to my house, they'd see this giant library collection of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff.
Yes, I've seen it.
So the reason why we got those is because we had purchased them is because every Friday, like after school or something like that, my parents would say, like, "Oh, let's go buy a movie or let's go to the movies and see something." And so I just kind of grew up watching a bunch of very different movies And I think that kind of started for my love of film. So thank you, stepdaddy. I appreciate you and I love you. But yeah, we watched this with our old men. That's funny, that phrase. And we had a great time. My dad and I loved watching it with him, and two, I just loved watching this movie. This was so good.
It's great. It's actually, I think it was my dad's first time really seeing this movie in any like actual attempt to like understand the plot and not just seeing like indiscriminate scenes from it. And so getting to see his like reaction to like certain scenes where I knew was coming, it was a fun time.
Listen, I'm glad to hear that. But when you're ready, I have the synopsis. Well, this one I would say is more of a log line than a synopsis. Log line, for people that don't know, it's just like a one sentence summary of the film.
Right. Well, we'll go ahead and hit him with it, and we'll see if how it do.
So this one comes from Wikipedia. It says, Die Hard follows John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, who's caught up in a terrorist takeover of a Los Angeles skyscraper while visiting his estranged wife. Now, that's pretty small. It's pretty condensed.
Yeah.
So I feel like, what is this one? This one says, an NYPD officer tries to save his wife and several others taken hostage by a German terrorist during a Christmas party at the Nakatomi Plaza in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, I think both kind of. I would say the least you know going into Die Hard, the better for your anyone's first viewing. And I will say spoiler warning because we are gonna dig through this movie and talk about all the stuff we like in it. So this is your warning.
Yeah, I would say, well, who goes into a film and TV podcast knowing, they're not going to say spoilers? Why would they talk about spoilers? So unless I guess this is like a recent movie. I think we did like a non-spoiler review
when we covered Tenet. I think we started off, and that's so I was going to say 2020 has been just a crap year. So I'm hoping that as we move into 2021 and not to digress, but there are movies that will be released in theaters. Hopefully COVID goes away and stays away and theater going can resume. But also a lot of big budget, AAA Hollywood movies are being released on streaming now. So there are, I think, opportunities for us to really discuss those.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Thank you for holding. Your call is important to us, and a member of our team will be with you shortly. I could have easily gone back to the podcast already, but now I'm committed to the goof. Okay, I think that's enough.
Zach, you know what I hate more than anything else in the world?
Is it when the connection gets dropped and
you know what I was going to say? To quote the famous Christopher Pratt, connectivity problems is what I hate the most because they suck.
Yes, they do.
Anyway,
whatever. I think we'll just get right into it. Full spoilers for Die Hard. Here we go. Die Hard, the movie, directed by one John McTiernan.
Ooh, this is an interesting guy.
Yep, director of movies like Predator, The Hunt for Red October, Last Action Hero, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and committer of a few crimes.
Yeah, I didn't realize until you showed me. I didn't really know who this guy was. But his, let's say, criminal charges and felony convictions and incarceration are a very interesting thing. It involved him, a producer who he thought was going behind his back, and perhaps a private investigator he may have hired to wiretap their office. Super interesting stuff. But I mean, like,
yeah,
if you're into that, like, that's what, that's gossip.
Yeah. Now, the movie was written by Jeb Stewart and Stephen E. Souza. and it was based off the book Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe, sequel to The Detective. I think this is a pretty well-known thing. It was a sequel to The Detective, which was adapted to, I think in the 70s, starring Frank Sinatra. And the intent was to have Frank Sinatra be in this movie as the same character, but he said no, so they kind of retooled everything.
Wow. I didn't even realize that this was based off of the like a novel, or that there was like novelizations that, like, I wonder when that changed, like when Die Hard became Die Hard, and
probably after
the Detective.
this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't imagine Live Free Die Hard happen in a novel. In all reality.
But let's see, this movie, it was released July 15th, 1988, so it's a Christmas movie, but it came out in the middle of summer. And it had
isn't there a saying about Christmas in July? Something like that?
Something like that. It had a budget of between 25 and 35 million. I like that there's just a phantom 10 million that, take it or leave it. It's, pocket change. Made a box office return of 139.8 to 141.5 million dollars. So pretty good return.
I was gonna say, and for all we know, this is just like 1988 kind of money. This isn't like adjusted for inflation.
Right.
Okay.
And so we have. Oh, what's up?
I was gonna say, did you notice that this film was distributed by 20th Century Fox? I wonder if Disney will put it on Disney Plus.
It's doubtful. I don't think they want someone saying "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker" on their Disney streaming platform. I'm still expecting Disney to like put out like another platform that has kind of like more mature stuff from their various studios or whatever.
Isn't Logan on Disney Plus or not yet?
I don't know. Let me check.
I don't think it is. Now that I'm talking to you about it, I don't think it is. I feel
Pulling it up. Let's see. Disney Plus is loading.
Here he is, our man Zach on the scene at Disney Plus. Zach, how is it over there?
So the X-Men movies are on Disney Plus, but Logan is not.
I wonder if that'll ever make its debut.
Never know.
Yeah.
But let's look at the cast of this movie. So, fresh off a few, like, I think, kind of like TV and comedy roles, we have a young up-and-comer named Bruce Willis.
Which is awesome. Did you know he was born in West Germany?
No.
I didn't either until looking at his Wikipedia page.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And, total newcomer to the action scene. He was really playing against type here. I think when they first shopped the movie around to, kind of figure out what they wanted to do with it, their original ideas were for an Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone type, which I think would have become like made this a very different movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but Bruce Willis, he kills it here. He's one of a kind. John McClane, the everyman, the most relatable action hero.
I would say I really like Bruce Willis in this as a whole. I mean, I think generally I like Bruce Willis. I can't imagine the times
whenever I feel
like I can't imagine a movie that I've seen that I didn't like him in. Like Pulp Fiction, he was good. What did I see him in recently?
That's it.
That's pretty much the last thing I remember him in outside of... Well, he had a small role in the Expendables movies. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, well, so like the Expendable movies are like silly and like you're not supposed to take them seriously. But after a while, it's like I get it. It's yes, you got another action guy in your movie, and they're saying each other's lines.
Would be super funny. Would be if they did like an Expendables 4 or 5. I don't know if it went past 3, and they brought like John Wick or something like that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, after a while, I think by the third one, they were like they had Chuck Norris making Chuck Norris jokes, and I said, okay,
that was awesome.
Done.
I loved that.
But okay, so opposite Bruce Willis, we have Alan Rickman, Severus Snape himself, in his first film role.
What
at
a
least
great...
first Hollywood film role as the ringleader of this colorful group of criminals, Hans Gruber.
Another actor, I think my favorite Alan Rickman roles would probably be Snape, right, from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest is great.
That is awesome. I would say he did pretty good. He did a good job in this one too. There was a part in this one I wasn't, not that I wasn't a fan of, but I was like, really? But no, and then I think he was in Dogma too, wasn't he?
Yes, so he was in Dogma. I was gonna say that was one of my. He was the Metatron in that.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, I think anyone who knows Alan Rickman, his big thing is playing Snape in the Harry Potter series, and for being the man who knew the truth about the big reveal of Harry Potter all the way from the very first movie and having to hold on to that secret for like 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, I would say he was a fantastic actor. He's missed dearly.
Yeah, it was a shame when he passed away, but he left some very powerful performances.
Yeah, he had a great legacy.
And Hans Gruber is definitely one of them. Can you imagine, that's your first film role? Like, that's fantastic. But moving on down the line, we got Bonnie Bedelia as Holly Gennaro McClane. Honestly, I think one of the more underserved actors of the movie. She does good with what she's given, but I feel like,
she wasn't given a lot in general.
Yeah. But
I think that's probably like just this era of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I know I don't even want to say that because in our episode of Alien, we did talk about how Sigourney Weaver had like a great role as like kind of like a woman protagonist and like taking center stage of the film. So I want to say some filmmakers did it better than others.
I will say that they did do some stuff for her character because, okay, like I haven't read Nothing Lasts Forever, but I understand in Nothing Lasts Forever, it's not his wife who the character who became John McClane is going to meet up with.
Oh, it's supposed to be like his daughter or something.
His daughter, exactly. And she is like all in on this like corrupt corporate scheme, and so she dies at the end, and it's like super dark and depressing. As I understand it. So I feel like they gave the character of Holly a lot more agency in this because she took the job out of her own volition. She moved out to LA and she chooses to use her maiden name because it works better with the Japanese culture, I guess.
Yeah.
But she is just kind of like a hostage, and unfortunately later she is a sort of a damsel in distress, but for what she's given, she does a good job.
Right.
But moving on, we have probably my favorite character in the movie, Reginald Veljohnson as Al Powell.
Yes, he was. Listen, my first time watching this movie, I didn't realize that he was even in it. I know. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say that because I did see him in the second one for the time that I did.
Yeah.
But he didn't really do anything the first 30 minutes. Versus this movie, he was such a delight on screen. Every little bit of it. And then
he is the voice
finale, and God.
he is the voice of reason among like all these crazy people in this movie.
I also like how a sergeant can kind of defend himself against like not the police chief, but who is this other role?
That's a good segue. Paul Gleason, definitely playing type as Chief Dwayne Robinson.
Yeah. Screw that guy.
Because Paul Gleason, was definitely still no. Did he pass away? He passed away in 2006.
Paul Gleason passed away?
Yes, he was he was a great actor. Of course, I know him as the principal from The Breakfast Club. Right.
I liked him, and he also reprised his role as the principal in Not Another Teen Movie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but he plays kind of a good like asshole who gets his comeuppance.
Yeah.
In this, we've got some of a few of the notable people from Hans Gruber's group. There's let's see, I don't want to mess up his name. Alexander Godunov as Carl.
Memorable Carl.
Just a real angry boy.
Did most of his other, not that they were gang, I guess the terrorist members of the organization, did they go on to do like other great kind of roles, or they were all just kind of there?
I think a lot of them were like small time actors. I don't want to say that. I could be totally wrong.
Didn't you like how they all kind of had this Fabio aesthetic to them?
So much glam metal hair going on. It's wonderful. Except for this guy, Clarence Gilliard as Theo, who is just like the snarkiest hacker on Earth.
I could agree with that. But I mean, I guess in a way he was the odd man out of the group.
Yeah, a little bit. He wasn't a killer, obviously. He was literally brought in just to break through a safe. Yeah. And then but he's got some fun. Just clearly he doesn't have a problem with all their murder, because like when they first enter the Nakatomi Plaza, and I think Carl's brother kills the guard in the front, and then Theo just hops over the desk and kicks the corpse away. Yeah. So
who knows about his humanity, if he had any.
Right. Now we have William Atherton as Richard Thornburg, who's the reporter. Probably the biggest piece of shit in this entire movie.
I hated him through and through. I don't think there's any redeeming characteristic about his journalism or his career, his character in general.
His horribleness is only maybe met by Hart Bachner as Ellis, who is just like the worst, L.A. Douche cokehead.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with most of those things, but then I think I realized something, Zach. I'll save my realization for later. Let's continue.
Okay, I think the last person I really credit, because there's a lot of people and a lot of named roles. Like every one of Hans's men has a name, and like they all have little gimmicks about them that are all pretty memorable. But I feel like if we named all the named characters in this movie, we'd be here all night. But
at least the characters have names as opposed to other films.
Nolan. But the other one I wanted to bring up was Devereaux White as Argyle.
Dude, what a great character.
He's hardly in the movie, but he is.
At least he has like just a like presence on screen, like he really excites, I think, the audience as well as Mr. McClane, if you will. They had this great small interaction and relationship, and and it was just great banter and back and forth. I was happy anytime I got to see him, even if it was less than 5 minutes of screen time. Yeah, he was wonderful.
So okay, let's dig into this. Let's get through this this story. So okay, basic story. John McClane is a cop from New York, coming to see his wife and daughters for Christmas. His wife left him basically in New York to pursue her career, and he has come to I guess win her back, and gets caught up in this horrible terrorist takeover that's not actually a terrorist takeover, and action movie shenanigans ensue. Yeah.
So I was really bothered by the introduction of this film, right? Where we find Mr. McClane, Mr. John McClane himself, flying in. I guess the guy sitting next to him on the flight is giving him such weird advice. To me, it's just, what you want to do is you want to take off your socks and shoes and just really roll them in like a fist, like on the rug underneath you. And I mean, Bruce Willis's face was this look on my face, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man? What is happening? Why is this the introduction to this widely acclaimed action film? And I just love the little payoff later. After Bruce kind of gets acclimated. I'm wondering what the hell he's doing. And then he's digging his feet in his grass. Like, oh, he's taking the advice from the guy. I'm like, oh, that's a weird payoff, but it was kind of funny. It was like a good gimmick.
Listen, as one person who has been on an awkward plane ride time and again, I can say occasionally people will say some weird stuff, but you never know. You might get a little breadcrumb of wisdom from one of them. So I thought, it's a funny, relatable moment in the movie.
But what a weird way to relate to somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but let's talk about this gentleman of John McClane, because I mean, like, I like how it would have been easy to portray this guy as like kind of like the shining knight. Basically, he's a cop. He could be straight laced and the straight man to all the kind of wild personalities of Hans Gruber's group, but he's got an edge to him. He's not a perfect hero. He can't take his eyes off ladies when they pass by. Yeah. He's kind of unfriendly and untrusting, but all of this you go like, well, I know people like that. It makes him feel real.
So I want to say I think the movie does a good job kind of distancing itself in a way too from, though they say like, oh yeah, John McClane, he's a cop. He's he's NYPD. And stuff like that. And I guess he has some kind of mannerisms about it, or he's kept the training, and he provides that later on in the film. But there were a lot of parts here that made me think like he's not utilizing things that you'd think someone of that caliber would. And when you look at it with like the scope of this day and age, I don't think this movie at all glorifies what being a cop was seen to be. And in fact, I think it shows the exact opposite of like why the police in general are kind of useless, and why this kind of loose cannon is pretty like.
I would say it's situational, but
very situational.
In a situation like this, obviously this is a Hollywood movie, and in terms of like things where if something were to happen like this, it wouldn't be, I think, as grand or operatic as this movie can be at times.
No, but I mean, even with all the grandeur and everything that's kind of going on, it does a great way of showing, like, I guess the best way to put it, just like John's really there on his own because of the incompetence of the system he was kind of
when he gets on the radio, the walkie-talkie, and he's like trying to talk to them, and they're like, "This is a line reserved,"
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't care about the minutia of everything, and I like that. I mean, he is that kind of I don't want to say that that trope of like what we imagine like TV and movie like action heroes to be, but he kind of fits it, but in the right way. I would say a lot of people base characters off of him.
He's an old-fashioned like New York, not going to take any crap from anyone, against these like new age like LA types.
Well, I mean, the terrorists themselves, not necessarily LA types, but you know what I loved was the relationship that Hans Gruber would make to him. That like, oh, you think you're like a cowboy, but like. He talked about like John Wayne, and I love how he was just like misremember the movies. It's like John Wayne wasn't in that movie, or something like that.
Yeah, here's is this where John Wayne rides off with Grace Kelly, and he's like, it was Gary Cooper, asshole.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, there's a lot of that in there, and and I think it does well, like for his character.
John McClane feels like, at least for this first movie, feels like a very real person who is just caught up. He's an average man caught up in an above average kind of situation, an extraordinary situation, I should say. But seeing him, kind of like, it's funny watching his growth through the movie, because at first, he's like, oh my God, like, what's going on? Why didn't you go in there and stop them? Like when they kill, oh God, I'm totally blanking on the man's name, on Mr. Takagi, when they kill him.
Yeah.
And John goes, why didn't you stop them and stuff? And he goes, because you would have gotten yourself killed too. And he's kind of talking to himself and
he's working it out.
Yeah, seeing him go from that to like someone who is like, playing this cat and mouse game and outwitting his opponents, and to the point that he's having full on like machine gun fights with them.
Yeah.
It's always really.
Yeah, you have to admire his resourcefulness too, because he really is caught at like such with his pants beneath his waist, or like around his ankles. Because first and foremost, he took his shoes and his socks off so he could roll them on the ground.
And by the way, I will say that's why that first scene is there in the plane. It's because they need an excuse for him to not have his shoes on.
Right, but I mean, like, when you finally get to that point, oh my God, like I want to really compliment the writing there and just kind of the situation that they designed to put him in, because that's super clever, and also it makes for an interesting way to like that's how the terrorists end up combating, Mcclane when he's kind of got them pinned, and they're like, oh. Let's shoot the glass, and then you don't realize it until John realizes it, like, oh wait, they shot the glass so that I can't get out of here, I can't walk out of here, or else I'm going to step all over it, which he ends up doing, and it really cuts him bad. And
yeah, oh God, the glass in the feet is like one of the most, like, I've always said, like, in a movie I can watch someone just like have their head exploded or see someone get like cut in half, but you show me like the little things, like someone pulling like glass out of a tiny cut, and I go, no.
Yeah, I mean, I want to compliment this movie too. It was there was a lot more. I don't want to say gore, but it was a little more explicit than I thought it was going to be. But when there were like squib explosions and fake blood and stuff, they look pretty good to me. Only to be rivaled with like Tarantino, in the modern day.
This was the time, back in the day of squibs and you couldn't have like CGI blood splatter. So
I know. I don't know, man. I miss the old way of doing things.
Yeah, sometimes old is better. It's just because something's new doesn't mean it's better.
Right.
George Lucas, but yeah, this movie's great. I really, for a second, I want to talk about Gruber's Men again, because I love they all have these little things about them. Kind of like you said, they all have like the glam hair, or you might see Carl's brother, does something, or one of the other characters says something, or there's one of them who like you can see him kind of picking out a candy bar and stuff, and they all have these little character beats that. It makes them feel like real people and not just like mindless henchmen.
I mean, even to that point, like they go further to the step that they each have names. Names. They all, I want to say, all of their names have been said on screen at least once, and are even written on McClane's arm, so he can track each and every one of them.
There is Franco, Tony, Alexander, Marco, Christoph, Eddie, Uli, and Heinrich.
I want to say maybe
Fritz
like
and James.
Yeah, not all those sound German, I suppose, but I'll buy that.
Well, I know Uli was the guy who goes for the candy bar, and of course Theo, who's just a silly boy, and Carl, who I would say gets the most development out of any of the henchmen, but he,
I wouldn't say necessarily development. I mean, I don't know if he gets a lot of screen time. I don't know if I see him get like, achieve and fulfill certain goals per se, but like, he says he remains the most consistent. I'll give you that.
he like he has like, again, like he is a bit character. He really only has like one motivation, but it is I feel a very relatable thing where it's like his brother got killed. He's pissed off. And I like that as the movie goes on, you see that Hans Gruber's hold on him is slipping.
Yeah.
And it gives the character, it makes him feel like he's not just some tool that's being used by the big bad guy. He is a person, and
yeah, he's an individual thinker, and he's going to get what he wants.
Yeah, he's going to rebel against Gruber if it serves his end.
I agree.
Let's pivot to everyone's favorite police officer, Reginald Veljohnson, because I love the first scene with him when he's in the gas station and he's like loading up on chips and candy and stuff, and the guy's like, he's like, it's for my wife, she's pregnant, and the guy's like, yeah, okay.
I was a little worried that when that was his introduction, that they just kind of typecasted him as like, oh, he's the big cop,
Well, Reginald Veljohnson always played cops,
right? But he was great in Family Matters,
of course,
and I feel like that's the only other time I've ever seen him play a cop. I don't see him as an actor too often. Like I just remember him, from that show. So coming and see him here, I'm like, oh, okay, he's another officer, but just typecasted as like, oh, just because he's a big guy means he's got to go he has to order Twinkies and that's all he's eating. But I mean, come on, man, like give him a little depth. And little did I know, like, dude, he gets like his own arc throughout the film. Like that was the biggest surprise for me, and at that moment, like, well, not at that moment, but when he's forming his relationship with McClane over the radio, which is awesome. And yeah, he becomes the voice of reason, and is trying to make sure
in the whole situation.
Yeah, in the whole situation. It becomes clear to me that he has a much bigger purpose in the film in general. And then he gets that I don't want to call it a monologue, but he gets that deep moment where he reveals like why he's not a beat cop or something like that, or he's a pencil pusher, as they say, and and he shot this kid, and he doesn't want to go through that again and make a mistake,
so,
and he's trying to claim responsibility for his actions, and he doesn't think he's good enough. And then when push came to shove, like he not only probably surprised himself and everybody around him, but like that is a great reveal, and I think a really great way to end the film. Like that was the last key we needed to have like an almost perfect ending to a movie.
I think it was so I like, obviously he's like one of my favorite characters in the movie, and I think that his story of like someone who he accidentally shot a kid. I don't think he killed a kid. I think he just said I shot a kid.
Did I say killed? I thought I said shot.
No. I'm just saying. I think it's up to interpretation if he had actually taken the kid's life. But like, okay, so this movie came out in 1988, and how were they supposed to know that in the future there would be such a harsh problem with police shooting people, sometimes accidentally, sometimes not accidentally, and that this would become maybe one of the biggest social
and
problems. Yeah. One of the biggest problems our country would be facing in modern day. And I don't want to claim ownership of this take on that monologue because I've heard it from several people. And again, not Die Hard's fault, but the fact that when he's talking about it, it's not that like, I killed a kid and I feel awful because I have taken a life. It's I killed a kid and I lost my nerve. So it's like it almost like it puts the tragedy on him losing his nerve over the fact that someone was either injured or killed because of him.
Yeah.
So again, that's not the fault of this movie. They could not know in 1988 that there was going to be that this was going to become such a big issue, because it is a big issue now. And I think you and I were both discussing kind of going into this how we wanted to approach this movie, because it is about it's about police and right now the topic of police work and how they handle situations is it's a hot
yeah, it's under a lot of scrutiny because of the way it's been handled. I mean, since the dawn of the Pinkertons and things, law enforcement and things of that sort.
I just think obviously I think we can try to divorce ourselves from what's happening now when talking about a movie, because this isn't, like you said, this isn't a movie that glorifies police work. This is a movie. They weren't trying to even endorse. I don't want to say police work, just like it glorifies police in general. I don't think it does. Yeah, and I don't think they were trying to. I think they were trying to make a fun action movie, and for the sake of having that character moment for Powell, the monologue is fine. It's something I felt needed to be addressed in taking today's context in mind.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I don't want to bog down the whole thing by going too far into it. But suffice to say, Reginald Veljohnson, great in this movie, fantastic. And I was gonna say I absolutely love him flooring his car in reverse when the body hits his hood.
Yeah,
to the point that he goes over the wall and.
I want to say he has a lot of great character moments in the film as a whole, and just I don't know, he was one of the best parts of it for me, more so than I want to say the final shot of him kind of in a way kind of redeeming himself for his faults earlier that he had mentioned. Not to mention one, it's not just like a show don't tell kind of thing. Or that example, he had his personal moment with John over the radio, and now we get to see that come full circle.
Right.
It was something I had no idea that existed in the film at all. Versus the last shot with Hans Gruber falling from the building. It's a very iconic shot, and you see, or of McClane in the vents, igniting the lighter. Yeah, those are iconic shots. But Powell's final moments and that being the way that we almost end the film, that was really rewarding as an audience member.
It's a great moment for the character. Again, I feel like context is important. If he wasn't a police officer, it might have read a lot completely differently. Mm-hmm. And if we didn't have the problems we were having now, that issue probably wouldn't be present. It's just one of those unfortunate things. The world's kind of a screwy place, and unfortunately, sometimes bad people abuse power, and it kind of sours moments like this in films. But other than that, I don't want to dwell too much on it.
It's okay. I have something I want to bring up about the film, or just kind of move into as a break from some of the characters that we're exploring. We talked about earlier that this movie, though I don't think is deemed as a comedy, has a lot of great comedic moments. The writing's just, I want to say, it's super clever.
Yes, this movie is so dang funny.
I want to say the first. I mean, and it has to do with that cat mouse game as well, as you were talking about earlier. That's one of the first instances that we get it. We have John McClane fighting his first of the many terrorists he'll encounter, Carl's brother, if you will. What's his name again? I said they all had names, but we keep referring to him as Carl's brother.
I think that's crap. It might have been Christoph? Tony.
So Tony. He goes through that situation and that wrestling match with him until he comes out the victor, and then sends Tony's body down with the best taunt ever that I've seen.
I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Like, well, one, Zach, fantastic Rickman impression. I must say that I could appreciate that. And two, like that was awesome. Like, what a way to fuck with people, you know? Like, imagine. I didn't realize that he had that kind of sense of snark or humor. I guess he kind of did, but or I guess it comes with his territory. But it was just really great that to have that kind of moment. And this would then play into, go ahead.
I was gonna say he also has like that great line when he's killed Tony and he's like gonna try to get his boots on and he's like, kill this European terrorist and he's got smaller feet than my sister.
Oh yeah. You see, like it has like a lot of great. I mean, you get the iconic yippee-ki-yay motherfucker. Like that's hilarious.
Yeah. I wrote a few of them down. So there's the so this is what a TV dinner feels like.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually seen that line referenced in like other properties. Like I think that line popped up in like one of the Fallout games and stuff.
Oh
wow. Ellis going, Hans, Bobby.
Yeah, that one's fantastic. I mean, listen, Ellis I hate him as a character. That's probably like his best scene. And I'm glad that was his last scene as well.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite lines is when the people, the newscasters are talking and they're saying like, they should be going through the early stages of the Helsinki syndrome. And
he's like, oh, Helsinki.
Helsinki, as in Helsinki, Sweden, Finland.
So, and which is kind of awesome because I didn't realize this. In fact, I was watching it with my parents, and my dad says, like, I wonder if they had to write that because Stockholm Syndrome is copyrighted. And then we looked it up, and that's exactly why. Stockholm Syndrome is a copyright name and idea. That's
awesome.
I meant to have it open. Hold on, I'm Googling. Really quickly.
And for our viewers, while Chris Googles, Stockholm Syndrome is the, I don't know if you call it a phenomena, but where captors will actually begin to relate to their, captives will start to relate to their captors and begin to favor them during their time as a captive.
That's true. So I'm kind of back. But I can't find who owned the copyright of it. So I'm going to let that be up to the audience to find out because I don't want to dwell on that too much longer. But that was a great line. Not to mention, I guess in those parts of the film, we get those moments with the reporter who I guess isn't allowed to go on to be an anchor or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's replaced by this idiot on screen. But yeah, I don't know. I just I gotta say, really, just like a lot of really enjoyable moments with these characters.
Yeah, I
and
think,
their lines. Oh, I don't want to miss one of my favorite moments, but when we get Hans Gruber faking his he's doing a German accent, and Alan Rickman is not German,
right?
But, first and foremost, and then he has to do a German American accent. A German accent of English speaking accent, and then try to sound American. So now we have this hodgepodge of just language, kind of English coming out of his mouth, and it's just like, oh, you're not one of them, or something like that, like super exaggerated. I think I died laughing.
I love that thing because when Hans does eventually try and pull the trigger on him, and he's like, "Oh, no more bullets. What do you think? I'm fucking stupid."
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to keep talk about that scene because that might be one of my favorite scenes in the entirety of the film.
They definitely play a good little trick on the audience because the movie is very open about what the audience knows and who knows what. So when you get to that scene, you have no indication that John McClane knows it's Hans Gruber, and so it's, I think, like the first time, maybe the only time, that the movie really tricks you into thinking that John McClane's in danger.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that sense of danger is just kind of like, oh, dude, it encapsulates the entire scene because, not only do we get them to meet each other and things like that, like, then John kind of becomes friendly with him, right? And, like, Alan Rickman, being the fantastic actor he is, plays it so well. Also with this terrible accent, like, it's this disgustingly cunning, weird performance, but you're also, you can't believe that John's buying this, And then this is, all right, again, my favorite scene in the film, not to mention it has, like, this tension that's just being built, and you have no idea when this time bomb is going to explode, but you have these wonderful camera angles, right? They're canted. They're what's known as a Dutch angle.
Yep.
Which is when it's like kind of like a slant. That's
like
a number of degrees.
They tilt the camera.
Yeah, exactly. And it usually is supposed to show like some sort of signs of like dominance and like
or an unhinged nature.
In the characters, and you don't really know what's going to happen next. I think another great example of that is the first Mission Impossible. There's a video I think that Studio Binder did, a great YouTube channel, and like film production products brand as well, where they study the Dutch angle, and they show how well it can be used in a scene. Check it out if you haven't. But yeah, this is another great example of that, because then you finally get the moment where John McClane hands him the handgun, like, you know how to use one of these? You've shot this before? He's like, oh, I went shooting one time or something like that. And he hands him the gun. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, oh, shit, like, it's over, it's done. And, lo and behold, he then points the gun at him. And I mean, then we get the foil of all that tension. But, yeah, the director of photography, Jan de Bont, who also was director of photography of The Hunt for Red October, which the director had also done. He also did something like Lethal Weapon 3. Like, great work. Bravo to him.
Cujo.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Stephen King movies.
There you go. Like, this guy has done some good work, and I gotta say, like, I was really, dude, that another pleasant surprise in this film for me personally. Mm-hmm. As a student of film, yeah, that was excellent scene. Excellent. I would use that as an example for tension for anybody.
It's a great scene, and then it's got the great payoff of just that all this tension that you thought was there suddenly is taken away when you realize that John McClane has been on top of everything from the beginning. It's a good reversal of that scene.
But before we forget about it, I do want to go back to I mean, the one character we haven't gone too much into, which is Hans Gruber, our antagonist. I feel like,
yeah, he's an awesome character, just start to finish.
He's not the traditional villain, I want to say.
Well, I think so. It's funny because he has this way about how he acts and how he addresses people and how he presents himself, where you think he's not like your typical, like, crook, but at the end of the day, he is. I mean, he is just in it for the money.
Yeah,
and
it's a robbery.
Exactly, and he stages everything. This huge terrorist attack, even going as far as to like murder people who are like high up in the corporate chain, corporate ladder, I guess. To disguise his actions as, like he even has, like, when he gives the demands to Robinson, he's like, I want these people from this, from in Canada to be released, and I want these people to be set free and stuff. And when you have those demands, I want a chopper on the roof to take us to the airport, and from there you'll get further instructions. And it's this elaborate thing, all to disguise the fact that all he's doing is stealing money.
How much was it? It was like 60 million or 600 million, something like that.
And
actually, it's in the form of like bear bonds, right?
Yep. Bear bonds.
Which is funny. It's like bear bonds is like the thing that a lot of villains are after in movies. I don't know if you know this, but I want to say they're the center of plight for a number of heist films.
Yeah.
Where was the list? I had it up here somewhere in my notes because my dad discovered it, and I was like, oh, it's actually interesting that it comes up so often. So all right, what is it? Die Hard, Heat, Beverly Hills Cops, License to Kill, Panic Room. I guess somewhere in Akita they have it. The Transporter, Fun with Dick and Jane. I remember in that one, but it's like Point Blank. What else, dude? There's just so many films where it's like bear bonds are like that's just the thing that people want to steal.
It's a good way to like show that you have a lot of money and not have just like a bag full of cash or something. But yeah, I love the part where, you know, when he's gathering up the bonds and everything that was in the room, in the safe, and Holly says, you know, after all of this, you're just a common thief, and he says, I am an exceptional thief, and since I'm moving up to kidnapping, you should be more polite. And it's a wonderful line because it really, I feel it's like the one time that he feels like he's really being insulted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he really took that to heart, you know.
And we've seen this guy murder people on a whim, so when he says you should be more polite, I believe it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know. I feel like that's probably like another great movement, and also like you get. I mean, he's also. I don't want to say like a classy fellow, but he's not a classy fellow. You get the great moments of the music that plays like during his kind of villainous moments. An old nod to the Ludwig van, as they say in Clockwork Orange. But yeah, just these great moments, which I mean, I guess you would say that makes him a little more classier. When he says he's an exceptional, he holds himself to a higher standard
right.
than the common robber, if you will. I really liked his characterization in a way. He did play the exact opposite that was our main character of John McClane. You know, John McClane's reckless. He throws C4 down elevator shafts and almost blows up a building. And you know, was he the one that shot at Al or Powell's car, or it was one of the terrorists?
No,
that
was one of the terrorists.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that on public record because someone told me that he shot. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure he didn't. But you know, like he is known for doing other reckless things.
He definitely does. But then you know,
versus Gruber, who's calculated, and you know, like this, it was a great battle of extremes, if you will.
Right, and of course, all this comes to a head in their final standoff, and you know, I think the only great thing, and not the only great thing, but the only thing I feel like is really worth mentioning is I love the story behind that final moment with Hans Gruber, because so he gets the jump on Gruber and his last henchman, because he's got, you know, John's got
like 2 bullets left or something like that.
Yeah, and he has the gun duct taped to his back, so he shoots Hans, he shoots the other guy, and then Hans is hanging out the window and he's holding on to Holly by the watch, and John is able to get the watch off, and Hans Gruber falls to his death. When they shot the movie, Alan Rickman agreed to do the 25-foot fall, I suppose I would hope, onto a mat, onto
God.
A pillow.
That looks way bigger than 25 feet.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they do it for the movie, but like in that scene where he is dropping, where you see him, like his face, I think that was supposed to be like a 25-foot fall.
Jesus.
But you know, if you land on a soft pillow, I'm sure it's fine.
Have you ever been on a crash mat, Zach?
Maybe.
It's a lot harder than you think.
Well, hopefully, I'm sure everything went well. But the the great thing about this is that, they told him, okay, so you're going to be holding on and we're going to drop you on 1, 2, 3, go. And so when they rolled, they went 1, 2, and then they dropped him. And
so no.
That look on his face as the watch snaps off and he falls, that is genuine shock on Alan Rickman's face.
Oh, God. Actually, there's another little bit about that scene I want to mention is that earlier in the film, they talk about Holly's like, how important she is to the company and they rewarded her with like a Rolex or something. I'm pretty sure that's the Rolex they were talking about.
Yeah,
that she lost. So, and another great detail about the movie. So you may continue.
Oh no, that's about it. I mean, I think from that point on, the only thing worth mentioning. I mean, there's other things. There's the 2 FBI agents, Johnson and Johnson. They're funny. They
completely useless. Good riddance to them.
I think they have that one great thing. It was just like being in fucking Saigon. And he's like, I was in junior high, dickhead. And like they're fun, but like they come and go.
Yeah.
Really, I love the ending of this movie. Powell gets his big moment. Carl shows back up. He's got his gun, but Powell's quick with his gun and takes him out.
Yeah.
Holly punches out Thornburg.
Yeah.
And,
which now makes sense considering the opening of the second film.
and then we get Let It Snow because it's a Christmas movie. It is 110% a Christmas movie.
Zach, we've done we're finished on our holiday wrappings of all these films. What would you say has been your favorite
out of the
holiday
four?
Experience?
The 4 that we did.
Yeah.
Rocky. I think Rocky is always going to be one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I feel like I enjoyed. I don't know. I feel like I really enjoyed this one. I feel like I enjoyed Rocky for the Thanksgiving time due to the nature of the film. But I don't know. This one really felt like. Well, I can't imagine there wasn't a dull moment in Rocky. Not for me, at least.
No, definitely not.
But I don't know. I feel like, this one was just also really great. They were both really great movies.
You can't go wrong with either. They are just a hell of a good time. I wish every Die Hard movie was this good. Unfortunately, they're not. But for what this one is, I feel like a lot of times with these movies, these action series from the 80s and stuff, the first one's great, and then the others are just kind of there. But that doesn't diminish this one from being just start to finish one of the most enjoyable movies ever.
Franchises are just that. They're just franchises. Maybe they'll reboot the Die Hard franchise. That would be that I don't want that. I'm not a big fan of all the reboots in the world. There's some I want. There's some that I don't think I need necessarily.
There was some talk. I know back when A Good Day to Die Hard was coming out, there was some talk that they wanted to do a young John McClane thing. But like for me, I feel like that it ruins it because it's like the whole appeal of John McClane is he's not an action hero. He is he's an everyday schlub who just he got roped into this crazy circumstance. Yeah. And if you start saying, but he's done all this other crazy shit you haven't seen, then I go, well, what was even the point?
Can I tell you something? It was a realization I had today that, filmmakers and studios and all these companies, they were, they started franchises and things like that. I want to say starting in the 70s, if not the 80s. Like really when we started getting like sequels and trilogies and then, now Rocky 5, like what is this? But there was a point where I feel like the generation before us, right? And even the generation previous to them, they were always more interested in where people were going and what people were going to do versus I feel like our generation and they've kind of learned this, that we'll always be interested in how we got here, which is why the phrase prequel and the before time exists now, right? And why we're so obsessed. Like, you think about it, there wasn't any like explorations of, oh, well, what did they do? How did they get to that point in the first film? You know, before the year 1980. I mean, reality. Like, I can't think of a time where there was, and then, you know, like.
Well, I will say, like, you know, there's The Godfather Part 2, which is both a sequel and a prequel. Not to say that prequels didn't exist, but yeah, I don't think they were as prevalent as they are now. There's an obsession about them, though. I can't tell you how much I don't care for prequels. Mm-hmm. I think the most annoying thing for me is when people demand a prequel to a movie or a show or whatever where we already know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I know there have been talks of, well, what was the one I just heard about? They're doing a prequel series for Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And we won't talk about Game of Thrones and our opinions on that. But they're doing the smart thing where they're doing the story, I think, of the
House of the Dragon,
the Dance of Dragons, the Blackfire Rebellion, I think. So that's like, there's some real like cool stuff, and it's distant enough from the Game of Thrones proper story that it's not, there's enough room that like we don't know all the details and stuff, and it's interesting. But I remember back when Game of Thrones was wrapping up, there were a lot of people who wanted a prequel all about like the rebellion that happened at the beginning, right before the main story of Game of Thrones. And I'm like, but we know what happened. We saw it. What's even the point of having that? So when I hear someone say, well, yeah, we were shopping around the idea of a young John McClane movie, I'm like,
dude, he was in the police academy. What else do you want from him?
he was just a cop in New York. Like,
yeah, he was pulling people over, like, I don't.
The whole appeal of John McClane is he doesn't do this. He wasn't supposed to be this like action star who had like all these crazy adventures. He was one dude who got in a very bad situation.
That's what Michael Scott says, man. You gotta listen to Michael Scott. He knows things. People don't give him enough credit. That's a smart guy right there.
So I think the big takeaway from this is don't do prequels. Always move forward. Never go back.
Listen, I won't say whether I'm for or against them because there have been many times where I'm for a before time story. But just make it good.
Yeah.
Make it worth seeing. Like, why do we want to explore that story?
Get it right. Get it tight.
There you go. But yeah, man, this has been a really fun last couple weeks with you, Zach, doing all these shows and enjoying all these podcasts. I don't know if necessarily we talked about what we're going to take this time to our lovely listeners to kind of reflect on this kind of year as a whole as we close out our season and our show, and just kind of what we can look forward to coming up, because there's this year was it's a very it's very troubled year in general, but
it had a lot of shit.
Yes, a great word choice right there. But we all kind of dealt with everything in our own ways, and in some way, shapes, and forms, communities came together, though we were all so very far apart. Zach, you and I finally did something that we never thought. It's not that we never thought we could do, but we finally got our heads together and we started this show.
Yeah, and we had been talking about doing something like this for a long time, and I think all things considered, the pandemic started, quarantine was going on, people had suddenly more time than they knew what to do with, and you hear all these stories of people saying, well, I went into quarantine and I didn't want to just sit around staring at the wall all day. So there's people who they baked a bunch of bread, or they worked on puzzles, or they started a new hobby, or they worked on a skill that they hadn't really had time to dedicate toward. And like, I know for me, I did a lot more writing this year, probably because I had a lot more time on my hands than usual. But and I know for you definitely
let me. I just want to go through and just let everybody know exactly what I did.
You had your phases.
I did. So I think the very beginning of quarantine, I was in my my video game phase. I mean, you know me, Zach. I play video games maybe once or twice a year.
Right.
And I'll do like maybe 1 or 2 games. So I played a video game this year. Played 2. I played Fallout 76, and I played it with you when they started uploading and making it all great. I played Breath of the Wild for the first time. Super great games. I really appreciated them. I took a lot of time for myself personally to, just assess my health. And, I did a great job. And also kind of assess my eating habits. And I became quite the home chef and baker. You know how many loaves of bread I have baked this year? So many loaves.
A few.
Yeah. But what a great experience it was. Like, my last name's Kitchen. God damn it. I've always
live up to it.
Exactly. I've always been surrounded by such great, chefs and cooks in my family. Like all my parents, my mother, my father, my stepfather, not my stepmother, except come Thanksgiving time. My dad likes to complain. Sorry, Kathy, I love you. But it's just, I thought that's a skill I really wanted. Yeah, I got to work on writing, got to kind of focus on just developing shorts and other projects. Unfortunately for me, I was one of the many whose work was displaced as a kind of newbie to the full-time world of freelance production and things like that. I had a really great, end of the year last year and beginning into this year, and then, a lot of the stuff kind of dried up. But now, because of all this, I was able to focus on some passions and, really get my head together. And Zach, thanks to you, we were also able to make this happen. You're such a big part of this. I think part of me
really wanted that, like, not that ideally we shouldn't have had to have any quarantine. If things had been handled in a different manner, this might have come about in a much different way. But having events having played out as they did, I'm glad that going forward I can say, well, yes, when the quarantine happened, I didn't just stare at a wall all day. I have something to show for it.
I agree.
We have this podcast now, and however many listeners we have or ever get, it's just, I can look back on like this time of quarantine of COVID and be like, yeah, it's that this may have been a very dark time for the country, but at least something came out of it. That's true. There was a sentiment I left my family at the Thanksgiving table that I want to share here. Something I saw. It was 2020 might have been the year that we thought we were all going to get everything we ever wanted, but it ended up being that it was the year we would learn to appreciate everything that we have. Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. And I got to say, like, I love that we took this adventure together, hand in hand, and now we're pressing forward, and we have so many great things planned for you, lovely listeners. Yeah, maybe that's what we should call our audience, Zach. Lovely listeners. I feel like that's taken by someone else. We'll figure out what our audience is called, but I mean, 2021 is gonna be a fun year. I've already had like the gears turning on like things that are coming up in 2021. Obviously, I think I don't want to make any bold claims, but I think we've both agreed that our first episode back in 2021 will be touching on Wonder Woman 84, 88. I think it's 84, right? The Wonder Woman 2, the sequel to the Wonder Woman 84, which will be coming out on Christmas Day, so in the interim between when this episode is done and the next one. So that's what we really want to come back with, and then follow it up with maybe a look into 2021 at some of the big movies coming out. But I know, just knowing like certain things, I want to talk I want to cover more of Korra. I have a lot to say about season 2. I want to talk Fargo because we
just finished the season.
We just finished season 4, but we talked season 1. Season 2 is my favorite season of Fargo. Lord of the Rings is going to be celebrating its 20-year anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring. Game of Thrones is going to have its 10-year anniversary of its first season. So, like, there's so much to cover.
Yeah.
So 2021,
we're going to be very busy bees for everyone out there listening.
It's going to be great.
Not to mention, I still have a lot of Star Wars opinions that I need to get out. And there's been a lot of news regarding things that I don't agree with that I would like to talk about.
Yes.
But I'm going to give them everything time for things to settle and for me to look at the pile of dust and ashes that they leave behind us. and so we can really decide what we think before I go and start spitting my opinion out into your ears.
Don't spit in people's ears, please.
Yeah, I know. I don't like myself a wet willy either, so I wouldn't dare give it to anybody else. But that's just we're looking forward to it. This break will be nice for us to kind of, give us time to be with our thoughts, be with our friends, our family, virtually or in our households, and celebrate a lovely time. Zach, this is your birthday week, buddy. And I want to say, everybody who's been listening since day one has heard it. But, from all of us, the audience and production side of Script or Screen, happy birthday, man. I know it's a big one. It's
don't say it.
I've already said it in the past. But, I mean, no, realistically, happy birthday and happy Hanukkah,
Thank you. Yes, to all of our listeners, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah. That's coming up. I think this episode's dropping
the week of Hanukkah.
We are recording this the day before Hanukkah starts.
Oh, actually, it's today.
That's
or tonight.
Tomorrow.
20 minutes from now.
Well, and then, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, Festivus,
and also a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, happy 2021.
Please, look out for all Script or Screen updates and news on our social medias and other pages. Once again, it's www.scriptorscreen.com is our website. Or you can find us at Script or Screen on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you all once again for a lovely first season. My name is Christopher Kitchen.
I'm Zach Strackman.
Have a wonderful rest of the year and enjoy yourselves. Be good to one another.
Bye.